Hey, good afternoon. This is JR, founder and CEO of Social Market, here with Leon, CMO of Social Market, and this is Social Ledger Report.
I'm pumped, man. Lots of news this week, too. Well, I
Yeah,
feel like I say that every week, but this week feels like a lot of news.
dude, there is always so much news in this space, which is our job here to help you stay on top of it. Of course, if you're not on Twitter, that is. But we try to dissect it and give you the news that actually matters. We also try to remove all of the noise that, comes when you're going through all the weekly news. So this is why we're here. So with that said, the first story that we want to talk about is Worldcoin came out and it made a lot of noise on crypto Twitter, on the internet, you name it. But have you heard of Worldcoin before, Leon? Do you have any thoughts with that?
Yes. So I've heard of Worldcoin. It's from Sam Altman, same dude behind ChatGPT, OpenAI. I think they're separate companies, almost positive. It's a digital like ID system based on crypto. When you scan your iris, mainly in third world countries, you would get crypto, and now it's in the United States. That's what I understand.
Pretty much. So here I'm going to share with you what appears to be Sam Altman on stage making the announcement. And it actually partnered with Koshi, which is a direct competitor to Polymarket that does prediction markets on chain. Kalshi doesn't do it on chain. It does it with traditional finance with US dollars here in the US, which is, as far as I know, the only regulated one. But all that to say that even though WorldCoin just released this week, like it's already making a lot of moves. So if you guys can see my screen here, this post is by Historic Vids. Quote, Sam Altman's WorldCoin launched in the US last night, which is May 1st. So it was, what, Wednesday when it launched this week? And they've partnered with
Yesterday?
Couch.
May 1st was yesterday.
Yeah, so this is Friday, and that's May 2nd. So literally Wednesday it launched, and it already made a
Thursday.
partnership with well, yeah, you know. So here,
Okay, so Kashi's using WorldCoin as their base, and WorldCoin's based on, is it an ECR?
WorldCoin, that I cannot tell you because I don't know. WorldCoin, as far as I know, is a layer one, or no, it's got to be a layer two if I'm not mistaken. Well, that's embarrassing. I don't remember. But if anything, I know that.
It is a it is a layer two Ethereum based crypto.
Okay, so it's an ERC20 then. That makes sense. Yeah, so it being an ERC20 makes it so it's part of the Ethereum ecosystem, which means you can use it with Uniswap, you can use it on Base, all that sort of thing, as long as it's, bridged in those networks. But it being ERC20 is pretty big. Um, so there's another thing that I want to share with you as far as this story goes. I think it'll be best if I share my entire screen here again. So it actually partnered up with dating apps. So this guy said it's finally an end to the bots on dating apps thanks to WorldCoin. So I don't think this is Sam Altman. It kind of looks like him for a moment. But but I think you know how you mentioned how it scans our eye retinas to
Yeah.
make unique accounts for everyone. First of all, I didn't know retinas were unique in that sense, like our thumbprints. But I guess what it's trying to do here is, and it doesn't go too much into detail, but it's trying to, remove the bots from dating apps. I think that's also kind of big.
Yeah,
I know
like
World.
that makes sense. It's a high risk place. And it's also a low risk place where I think a lot of people probably do. There's a lot more places online that want to validate your ID, especially as like states are tackling like adult content websites. More adult content websites need to have verification methods to make sure you're 18, make sure you're 21. Like this world ID might be coming at a time that's actually really relevant. There was kind of like that one platform, it was called ID.me. You uploaded your driver's license and the IRS was going to use it, but this
Oh yeah,
seems way more safe. It's on chain. Like obviously you can manipulate it, at the point of, upload, but this is again, the dating apps are so low stakes, low risk for everybody that I feel like a lot of people will do it. And the fact that the match group is there, the match group controls like 90% of all like dating. I think they
Yeah,
own OkCupid, Tinder, Match, like everything. I
yeah,
like
they
how they
do.
cook plenty of fish.
I think the only one they don't own is Bumble. I think Bumble is its own separate, corporation. I could be wrong, but to your point, yeah, WorldCoin. I would argue it. Well, I have mixed feelings. I would trust WorldCoin more than I do ID.me because, I mean, it's first of all, being on the blockchain makes it so it is already encrypted, depending what the tech stack is. But anything that goes on the blockchain, it's automatically encrypted. Sure, you can see where the transactions are moving in between, wallets and everything to a degree, but it's still encrypted. There's more level of anonymity against, simply a database holding all of our, social securities, driver licenses, you name it. So I would, for that reason alone, choose WorldCoin more than, you know,
I've got a startup idea. Man, we should just put like a 23andMe on a blockchain.
yo, that would
Everybody's
be
DNA, encrypted, secured, kind of open in that sense, but also not owned by a private company. Like, I
more
think
like a
we've got our next
nonprofit.
startup.
Yeah, I mean that's honestly a good idea too because, I think we are every cycle, and I say cycle because of like the Bitcoin cycles playing a big influence for what's happening with, crypto companies, startups, and just projects. I think we're at a point where we could start seeing, storage-based applications or use cases on the blockchain. So that would be a good example for a startup.
Yeah.
If anyone out there wants to build that, let us know.
We got 10%, I think, right?
Ten
Like,
percent of what?
we need it immediately. 10% of whoever builds it.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's our bid. So going back to so here's the other thing, and this was actually a big controversial thing, which again I have mixed feelings, but if it's stored on the blockchain, okay, that's where I'm not as concerned. So again, the WorldCoin, had a lot of controversy back in 2022, 2021 because it was scanning people's retinas. So, this article is from Cointelegraph. The title says Sam Altman's eye scanning crypto project world launches in US. So we already know that. I was reading this article and I'm not going to go through everything, but just to kind of highlight what we were talking about previously, matchmaking with verified ID, the online dating giant Matched Group, which owns Tinder and all those dating apps that we talked about, will also begin pilot program testing out World ID for its apps. So, you know, it's here in the here's it's here in the print, and it's you know I think this is one way they're going to combat bots, which it says
It makes a
here.
lot of sense on that front. And it also, again, like,
Absolutely.
so many people probably are going to get verified on these apps that it just, it makes sense. Like, it was a good partnership in the end.
Super. It could even help with like identification for Web 2 applications. Like
Yeah.
if it could somehow replace ID.me, then I would trust that even more. So it follows more with this. World has established separate partnerships with prediction market startup Koshi and decentralized lending platform Morpho. Altman co-founded the project in 2019 when it was known as Worldcoin to create a global identification or identity verification system using the blockchain to combat fraud and bots. It rebranded to World in 2024 and currently has 26 million users globally, with 12 million of them verified through orb scans. So you might be thinking, what are orb scans? I don't know if you live under a rock first, but um, I'm going to show you the process of what it's like to, go through uh eye this orb scan with your retinas. So hopefully it's not too loud,
We went
but
to
this is the
scan our
process.
iris.
So first of all, the fact that you're getting monetarily incentivized to scan your retinas is unique. You don't see this outside of Web3. Huge.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I wanted to share is the price of WorldCoin has pretty much been on the down low, which depends how you look at it. I see this as an opportunity to start buying. But then again,
What's the, like, the 1 year chart of it?
the 1 year chart, it's It was at an all-time high of about
Five
$6 almost.
bumped up a little bit and down.
May, yeah. And then, I mean, right now, not to get very political, but tariffs and everything that's been happening under Trump on the markets right now isn't helping anything, even Bitcoin. So, this isn't surprising. But if you're bullish on Worldcoin, when I first started reading this article stuff like this week, I started getting more bullish on Worldcoin. At first, I was very quick to dismiss it because, I wasn't as attentive to what it was trying to do. But after reading the story this week and just doing my research, I've become more bullish. Now, as we all know, um, well, this was back in 2024, but its all-time high seems to be like about $11, $12 mark almost, depending on you can buy it on Kraken, but I don't know what other exchange you can buy it on. The price might be a little bit more in the $12 mark. So it's right around that ballpark. With that said, not financial advice, but I'm gonna start buying some WorldCoin after this. I don't know about you.
Maybe I do want to get my iris scanned though. Like, where do I sign up?
That's a good question. So I did not look at that, but I bet if we go to WorldCoin, do a simple Google search. So I believe it's world.org. Get the World app. You get the app, and then you must, according to that video, go to somewhere where you can scan your retina in that physical device. So for reference, we live in Texas, so you know maybe you need to find some nearby location where they have that eye scanner. Maybe it'll tell you more once you do, you know, go through the app process to download it. So, I'll have to get back to you on that next week. Let you know how it
Yeah,
goes.
I'm looking it up right now. I don't see anything in the United States. There's one in Austin.
Austin has everything. So if you live nearby Austin, if you want to get some free world coin by scanning retinas, then
Yeah, it's
check it out and
San
let us know.
Francisco, Austin, Los Angeles. There's another. There's actually one, two, three. San Francisco's, one LA, and one Austin.
Okay, that's not bad.
We're gonna go to
Yeah, I
Austin.
mean, Austin, for those of you who don't live in Texas like us, but Austin is like the crypto capital of Texas, where they have companies like there's some presence there with Capital Factory, some startups there have launched in Austin with their crypto presence there. So
Oh yeah.
I'm not surprised.
Okay.
That's pretty much as far as we have to say, as far as I have to talk about WorldCoin, but we have more stories to go through anyways.
Oh boy.
So yeah. So the next big story, it's actually Ripple going into a bidding war almost. Well, not a war, but just going into a bidding back and forth with Circle. It's trying to buy Circle, the USDC provider, stablecoin. So saw this post on Twitter, and it talks about earlier this week, Ripple or XRP offered 4.5 or 4 to 5 billion to buy Circle USDC company, but Circle rejected the bid as too low. So when I first saw this, I was thinking, well, this is just typical capitalism, company trying to buy a competitor to, be the main player in the game. And right now, I don't know if you know this, Leon, but right now, XRP did launch not long ago their own stablecoin. It's called the RL USD. So
I
it's
did
supposed to
not
be,
know that.
yeah. So if you look at the pricing on CoinMarketCap, it's just right under $1. You can buy it on Kraken, and you can also trade it on Uniswap. Uniswap, you can trade almost anything, if I'm being honest. But you can even buy Kraken with XRP itself. You can buy it with USDT or USDC. So pretty widely available on Kraken. I was kind of
Yeah.
surprised
Did you
it's not
see
available on
the
Coinbase.
update from the his name's Sid on Twitter?
No, I don't think I have.
Here, let me share my screen real quick.
Yep. By all means, excuse me. So that's pretty huge.
Yeah,
As
so he
it
said Circle's profitable. It's on track for 50 million ARR by end of year, and then they had 100% annualized growth on 200K in free cash flow, which is huge. And
Wow.
their like growth on that is, just like 2021 4x, 2022 it started to slow. Everyone started talking about it slowing, but it's like growing substantially every time. And then I was looking at that $4 billion offer. People were talking about like their EBITDA is about 300 million, so they were targeting 4 to 5 billion valuation for IPO. So like
Wow.
that's a
Yeah.
like that's roughly what they're worth right now.
So it sounds like Ripple was trying to buy them at base value. But as far as I know, when you're trying to buy a company or an entity, you usually pay like 5 times their price because you're looking at a 5-year growth return, if I'm not mistaken. You probably know about it more than I do, but that's what I've seen.
There's definitely a premium when it's a publicly traded company. You're generally paying like pretty close to, if the share's $20 a share, they may offer $30 a share, which is a premium on it. Now,
Gotcha.
when it's a private company, like it's a toss up of like, 5x revenue, 5x, profit. Like there might be something like that, but what did Ripple offer? I think the first time was what, 4 or 5 billion?
4.25
Yeah.
billion, which USDC said, nah, fuck you, that's too low. So Ripple's like, all right, bet, which is kind of breaking news because today Ripple came out like maybe just a couple hours ago by the time you're gonna hear this, but Ripple came back saying, hey, you don't like 5 billion? All right, how's 20 billion? So now they're going at this back and forth bidding, which, there's that premium, which
I wonder why they're not just waiting till Ripple goes public and making an offer, because then the board would have to like they have to accept it, unless they just think that Circle's going to go public and it's going to like the stock's going to skyrocket.
I would bet my life that Circle would skyrocket because right now the only crypto based stock that we have is Coinbase. We're gonna start to see that again we're gonna see that later with Kraken as well, but Circle would be the third one. You know, whoever comes first, either Kraken or Circle. So I think if it goes public, it's only going to become pricier because people are going to be able to buy the stock, and that's going to increase the valuation of Circle. So I think Ripple is doing it smart in that sense, where they're trying to get in a little bit earlier. They probably should have gone a lot earlier if I'm being honest. But you know, so so here's what it says as far as this story. This is from Cryptopolitan. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, but Cryptopolitan says Ripple is reported to have increased its offer to purchase Circle, the issuer of USDC, from 5 billion to cover worth 20 billion. And it says the higher valuation is now under active negotiation, according to Bloomberg sources. If confirmed, the deal would shift the balance of power in the global stablecoin market because right now Circle is the dominant player with USDC, and it's also Coinbase backed. So Coinbase is probably the most, biggest name in the crypto space. So here it says Ripple's move to acquire Circle would give it control of USDC, the world's second largest stablecoin, which I think USDT is the number one, if I'm not mistaken. The timing of the proposed deal comes as the Circle is cautious after filing an IPO application in the US. Crypto lawyer Bill Morgan hinted that Ripple's RLUSD token launch may be a precursor to its acquisition attempt. RLUSD is a compliant enterprise stablecoin meant to be embedded into Ripple's global payment system. And lastly, crypto influencer Crypto Airy described the movement as an aggressive market consolidation. Ripple buying Circle is not for the financials, she said, citing a larger ambition to buy out Circle's infrastructure and limit smaller rivals. So it's kind of like a power play based on this post from Crypto Airy. And
I
there's,
wonder if the government would allow it then.
honestly, if I'm being honest, given the state of the current administration, they're probably going to allow it if they're incentivized to.
I don't know. They have a Roth relationship with like tech companies. Like
They do.
they're still attacking Google. They're attacking Facebook. Like market consolidation might not be good, but also they just might not be able to like
Do
defend
anything about it?
against this.
True, true. I mean, this is monopoly, like 101, Like Ripple
Yeah,
is trying to
like
be a monopoly.
that is it. Crush the smaller players.
Exactly. And you know, under capitalism, you want to have not to get political again, but like under capitalism, the idea is to, have a free market where people can compete to create a better product for everyone. And I'm very much in line with that. So I think the government should also do its job by, preventing big players from eating out the smaller competition, because there will be a stagnation from innovation, and that's not good for anyone except for Ripple in this case, if they end up buying them. So
Yeah.
I'll be honest, I hope they don't buy them. That's my bet, or that's my hope, but we'll see what happens. Right now, there's this other article from Forbes where it also acknowledges that this is a power move. Basically, why Ripple's 5 billion offer to Circle was more than a power play. They're basically trying to control the market. So that's kind of like the TLDR from this article, which we'll put the link in the bio as well if you want to look at it. It's about it, I think. I don't know if you have any other thoughts on this story. Great.
We'll
But yeah,
see the outcome. Like, I think that's going to be the important part.
yeah, this was probably the second biggest story. We've been covering Circle's IPO for the last few weeks, and if you want to look at it, you can always look at the other videos in this channel. But we've been following this case closely, and unsurprising how far Circle has come, why Ripple wants to buy it. So
Yeah. Okay.
we'll see what happens.
Well, talking government regulation, there's going to be some regulation specifically in the EU, and the interesting part is just going to be how it has ramifications. So the EU is talking about banning, well, they're not talking, they're going to ban anonymous cryptocurrencies and privacy tokens by 2021. I've got mixed thoughts on it. So the overall article on it is they're using it as anti-money laundering regulation, where credit institution, financial institution, and crypto like asset providers are prohibited from maintaining anonymous accounts or handling privacy preserving cryptocurrencies. So it's not saying like anybody couldn't have it, but they're more or less saying like any large company is not allowed to hold it. So I think like crypto exchanges wouldn't be able to touch it. Any sort of bank wouldn't be able to touch it. Like it's a big thing. And the part that I'm kind of like caught up on is everybody was talking how crypto will make things more private, there's more privacy to it, and then now everything's really moving to like this kind of like public quasi private, like transparent blockchain where you can see everything, but also some things are they are hidden in some way.
Yeah, so for a long time, and I'm looking for this one meme that I want to share with y'all, just to kind of drive this point home. I remember back in, now mind you, I've been in crypto since like maybe 2018-ish, but back then even like people were in Bitcoin, were loving crypto as a whole because of the privacy. Sure, you can still audit the blockchain, you can still have a transactional history of where the movie has gone. You can see where the whales are putting their money, if and where money is being laundered. Like, yeah, it's open in that sense, but it is still anonymous, where you don't know, the IP address, you don't know, you know, what person is tied behind that money moving around. It's all just encrypted. You can see you can see the transaction IDs, you can see the wallets where it's moving, but that's as far as it goes. And it's still rigorous to trace all that, but it's still private in that sense. I don't know, I don't like that kind of regulation on the EU behalf. That is in the EU, so the US, hopefully it doesn't fall suit. If it were to happen in the US, which given the track record of the lax regulation in crypto we've had in this new administration, I don't think we would see that in the US happen anytime soon. And if it were to happen, right now you can buy Monero from Kraken. It's the only crypto exchange, centralized exchange that lets you do that. Otherwise, you can actually get Monero by doing CPU mining. So if you're
Still?
yeah, you've always been able to do that. I don't think they're ever moving to proof of stake. Don't quote me on that though, but I know you can still mine Monero with CPUs, which I don't know how familiar you, the audience, are with GPU mining or crypto mining, but for a long time, you could mine Ethereum with a GPU. I did it for a couple of years from 2020 to 2022, and I mined like over 2 ETH on my GPU mining. So I mean, it's nice, but for CPU, it's a little bit more nuanced. You know, you need to have a different setup. You need to, you know, much more different setup. So my guess is if Monero decides to, you know, not be as easy to get, then people are either gonna, one, start mining with their CPUs, or two, they're gonna start, you know, kind of like in the old days with Bitcoin, they would just go to people and be like, hey, I'll trade you US dollars or Bitcoin or
Yeah.
whatever, so you can give me Monero. So we're gonna maybe see that.
Yeah, it's. I think it's just really sparking that debate over privacy versus security. Like these privacy coins are they're definitely used for legitimate purposes. There's also just like Signal or Telegram. Like there's apps out there that are encrypted end to end that are meant to protect people. Like journalists use them. We see that the federal government uses it for very particular things. There could be reasons to have a way to funnel money without
Yep.
knowing who's sending it or who's receiving it. So it's just my thought is that the EU's kind of clamping down on these innovations a little too early, and
Yep.
it's going to risk what cryptocurrency looks like in the EU. Just like China and I believe Russia too did the GPU mining. They just said no more on the crypto. And then I think they've kind of like backtracked a little bit, but it's just not a great thing to kind of stop these innovations and put these roadblocks to it. I think there's better ways to kind of prevent the crime from happening where it happens everywhere, even in a cash-based society.
Yeah, I agree. So, you know, the EU is great. You know, like if I eat food over there in the EU, you know, I feel a lot better than I eat the food here in the US. So the EU is not that terrible, but you know, when it comes to, I've noticed a pattern where innovation, technology, capitalism as a whole, you know, it's very restricted over there. So unsurprisingly, a lot of the competition and investors move to the US for those reasons. So one more thing I'll share here, and this is kind of what I was talking about earlier. You know, if I don't know how, well, first, I don't know how you as the viewer feel about Monero suddenly being more restricted than even other coins or even Bitcoin. But I, for one, am not happy, and I don't think you're happy about it either, Leon. But, you know, I think right now we are seeing a huge shift on what is more of a priority for people on crypto as it becomes more mainstream. So I have this meme that kind of reflects how much Bitcoin narrative or crypto narrative has changed over the last few years. So at least back in 2017, the crypto bros, you know, they cared a lot about the utility. They were like, fuck the government and the banks, decentralized peer-to-peer currency and mining. You know, this was the
Yeah.
trending topics. And now it's like meme coins, banks and government, please buy, ETF, please, and regulation good.
Yeah. This is very true. Like this is to a T, like utility coins, decentralized P2P currency, literally, and then everybody is like, we need to have the mass adoption of it. It's also kind of just following what's happening in government. Like the fact that government's popping and big money is popping in too, and when big money comes in, that's the difference. It's good and
Yep.
bad. Nobody talks about NFTs anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I still like NFTs. My favorite NFTs are doodles. Like they had a partnership
Oh, I
with
love them.
McDonald's a couple of years ago. Yeah, like I actually don't hold any of those, but like I would love to. They're just pricier. But
Yeah,
I
I have an
digress.
early
So,
doodle.
oh, nice, nice, nice. So, I mean, we'll see what happens. I think there needs to be a fine line of balance between the mindset that we saw back in 2017 and what we're seeing now, where, you know, government, big companies are adopting crypto, which I think it's good for everyone. If you're in crypto, the total addressable market, or the TAM, as we like to call in the startup world, you know, it's going to increase a whole lot just by old old markets, you know, normies adopting crypto. It's going to become more relevant, and that alone is going to help everyone with the adoption. You're still gonna have the niche crypto bros who are like, oh, but fuck the governments, they shouldn't interfere. You know, I want to own my own money. I want to, you know, be able to send money in the most freedom way possible, or whatever narrative.
Yeah.
That's good still. And as long as they don't change crypto, because that's what crypto already does, they don't make it so, oh hey, you need to, I don't know. I mean, KYC is good. I understand KYC, but if we need KYC for everything, then that's going to be a bit of a problem. Right now, the way you avoid KYC is through decentralized exchanges, self-custody wallets. So while we still have those services and the government doesn't decide to do overreach, then I think we'll be fine. So
Yes,
that's where
exactly.
I'll leave it at.
No, that's all the topics. Like, man, crypto is just flying, and partially the reason it's flying is because the Trump administration is really into crypto, and then a lot of crypto like news and deregulations happening. So, I think I think the next 4 years are going to be like crypto heavy. It feels like months and months have gone by so far, but it's only been 100 days since like
Yep.
the change and deregulation of this.
Yeah, I agree. So we'll see what happens. Maybe next week we'll have a follow-up. I honestly, I'll be honest. I'm pretty sure we're gonna have a follow-up on Circle's fiasco. We've been following it pretty close, so we'll keep you updated with that. And we hear any other stories next week, you can expect us. But subscribe to the channel if you want to stay on top of the news for the crypto world and tech stuff as well. Follow us on our socials. We'll leave all the links below for your convenience. And also, if you want to look at any of these articles, any of these stories, we'll have the links below as well.
Yep, I'm looking forward to talking next week. Bye.
Yeah, great. Me too. See you guys.